You're making that song up. That song doesn't exist. What do you sing for us every Friday night?
On Friday night we say salam sabat salam to you. Yes, every Friday night we say salam sabat salam to you.
Now that you learned from the CD, but every Friday night you insist we sing some songs. What are they?
Ayom yom sisi, ayom yom sisi, mahah sabat, sabat, menuchah.
I'm gonna close the door.
Mahah sabat, menuchah. Ayom kulam ovdim, ayom kulam ovdim. Now this one is a new CIO. You need a sabat na sabat orders. Yum sabat salam. You need a sabat na sabat orders.
It was really a matter of feeling an extreme melancholy. I don't like to say depression, but sadness over the fact that this magnificent culture that was there. And when I was little, I didn't realize it was disappearing. So this magnificent culture that I was exposed to is all of a sudden it's on the verge of disappearing, because when the language disappears, I mean, language is a cultural tool, I guess. And if the language disappears, all the culture associated with it disappears. The literature, the plays, the songs, and it was very sad for me. For a couple of reasons. I mean, the first reason is whenever a culture disappears, it's I think a very sad thing. And the truth is, I don't think Yiddish is in much of a different state than most of the languages in this world. I read something once that 96% or 94% of the world's languages are in danger of disappearing. And most languages are spoken by only a couple of hundred people. So whenever a language disappears and you lose its whole body of culture, and if you can preserve it, you know, academics who study the language academically, I mean, it's really only preserved academically, which is more of a sterile environment. You don't have people enjoying it and living it because it's their culture. But the second part to that was that Yiddish culture is disappearing, or at least disappearing as rapidly as it is on account of a genocide. There were 11 million Yiddish speakers in the world in 1939. They decimated, they exterminated 2/3 of Europe's Jewry, and that's where Yiddish was from. But you know, Yiddish wasn't spoken all over Europe. I don't know the exact boundaries of where it was and where it wasn't. I know that one of the places it was spoken was my grandparents' Poland. And there they killed 90% of the Jews. They had 3.3 million Yiddish speakers, and they murdered 3 million of them, leaving 10%. You know, just destroying where Yiddish, because in America there were millions of Yiddish speakers in America, but those were people that had left, I guess, Yiddish land, and were busy trying to integrate into American society. And, you know, it's a matter of time before an immigrant community really loses its language in America, which is a big melting pot. But the fact that they exterminated most of the population in the places where Yiddish was from, Romania, Ukraine, Poland, parts of Russia, basically condemned the language to disappear as an everyday language.
What is it about Yiddish that you love so much?
I think first and foremost it's comfort. I think everybody, I don't know if you have a similar affinity with your Taiwanese culture and the language growing up your Facebook page. It's your
Yeah.
grandfather.
Yes.
There's an attachment there. It's part of you. You grew up hearing it. And I think if you were, on the one hand, I'm sure it might even be, it might even be disturbing to you that you no longer live in a society where that culture is probably as prevalent as it was in your household. And maybe there's some comfort knowing that it still exists in Taiwan. So for me, it's double. I don't have it in my world anymore, but there's not really a place in the world that where I can go and live in it. I can't get on a plane and go to Warsaw, where my grandfather was born, and where there were 300,000 Yiddish speakers in 1939, and you know.
Were you very close to your grandparents?
I was. But I was, but
Yeah.
they weren't easy people.
Steht sich dort ein Gessele, still vertracht der Häusele, drinnen auf dem Beut Stiebel wohnt mein Teierreisele. Jeden Abend fahren Heisel, dreh ich sich herum. Ich gib a Pfeif und ruf aus Reisel, kum, kum, kum. Öffnet sich a Fenster, wacht aufs alte Häusele, und bald klingt in stillen Gessel, als ist größere Reisele. Noch a Weile wart meine Lieber, bald will ich sein frei. Geh sich noch a paar Mal über 1, 2, 3. Geh ich mir a freilicher, sing und knack mir Nisselach. Heer ich auf die Trepplich springen, ihre drobene Füßelach. Schön auf den letzten Trepplich, nehm sie lieber rum. Ich gib ihr still a Kuschenkäppel, kum, kum, kum.
I realized it was disappearing a while ago. And the minute I started to realize, all of a sudden there was like this pressure on me I felt to preserve what I could. So I started videotaping them and started to speak to them as much as possible. And I started to try brushing up on my Yiddish because I felt that it was almost a race against time. I could learn it afterwards, but I couldn't learn it. You know, I could learn it in an academic environment, but that's not the best way to learn a language. And also I picked up on something that the way they teach Yiddish and the way my grandparents spoke it was very different. I came back, I told you I'd moved to Israel when I was 15. I came back at 21 and I went to McGill. And by that point, both of my grandparents were suffering from varying degrees of dementia, which meant on the one hand they were losing their English. And on the other hand, it meant I didn't have a lot of time. And so I signed up for a Yiddish class, but I realized that the way that they taught Yiddish was not the way my grandparents spoke it, because my grandparents, you know, it's just as English has very many dialects, and Yiddish was spoken over a very vast area. And so the dialect from one area to the next differs vastly. The accents differ vastly. And they don't teach their Warsaw Yiddish. And I think it was in part also I wanted to take in here as much of it so that I could kind of emulate the way they spoke, because I didn't want to be speaking this sterilized academic Yiddish that I was taught. I wanted to be able to perpetuate my grandparents' Yiddish. Unfortunately, I ran out of time. She wants to sing you a song in Yiddish, but she wants me to help her. Und wir seinen
Alle
oi oi alle. Sing, I don't like it. Und wir singen
Freilichlieder,
oi oi oi. Und wir halten sich in einem. Als elches is nicht da bei keinem. Oi, 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 oi. Oi, 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 seinen alle einig, oi, oi, alle einig. Sie mir seinen. Okay, you want to be in the video too? Oh, okay, but here, before you're ruining. Here, do you want to sing Alla Brida with us? Und wir seinen alle einig, oi, oi. Sie mir seinen viel zu wenig. Und wir lieben sich doch alle. Wie a Chussen mit der Kalle. Yo, Jonathan, come on. Oi, 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 und wir seien freilich munter, singen Lieder, tanzen unter, und wir seien alle Brüder, und wir singen freiliche Lieder.
Were there some songs that your grandparents would sing to you?
Oh, my grandfather was constantly drinking vodka because he was Polish. My grandmother, I never heard her sing, to my recollection. My grandfather was always singing to himself. And for... I remember as he got older and eventually had to be hospitalized and he wasn't very communicative, the one way I could kind of bond with him, at that point I was studying law at the University of Montreal, I would bring over Yiddish tapes. He was in the Jewish General, so they were near each other. Sometimes if I had a break between classes, I would bring over Yiddish tapes and either play them for him or sing along with him. But I remember one song that my grandfather used to sing over and over and over again for years. It was like this broken record. And I thought after he passed away, I would never track down that. It was my goal to track down that song and find it because I didn't know what it was. I remembered the words to it. I mean, I could sing it. Ongesoljet offen Herzen macht min alle Chaim. Oib der mit los nicht ruhen, singen mir a Lied. S'is nicht auch ein bissel Bromfen, lo mir trinken Maim. Maim Chaim, s'is doch Chaim, was darf noch der Yid? And he would stop. I thought this was...
What does it mean?
When life is heavy, we raise a glass. If the eternity doesn't let us rest, or I guess existence doesn't let us rest, we sing a song. If there's no whiskey, we drink water. Maim Chaim, the water that's from Hebrew.
Water of life?
Maim Chaim, the water of life, it's life. What more does the Jew need? And then when I started this group, and I didn't start it by myself, and we put together a collection of songs, and we were teaching them to each other, because there were a lot of us in the same situation. I mean, you think about it, people with my similar experience, and we were a lot who had grandparents who were Holocaust survivors. And all my generation is facing, we had the grandparents that spoke it in the home, and all of a sudden we're waking up to a world without Yiddish. So the group really came together because when I just mentioned I'd like to do this, because there were so many of us, and we realized when we put together the group, a lot of us, we'd heard the songs, we knew the tunes, we couldn't sing them, so we just got sheet music and we were teaching them to us, these songs to us at the first stage.
And completing the music with each other.
And one of the songs in there that somebody was teaching at one of our first ones was that song. But the thing is, I didn't realize I knew the refrain to that song. Because it's a little better, very often people know the refrain to a song, they don't know the rest.
Yeah.
And that refrain is relatively well known, but I didn't know the rest, and all of a sudden, oh, that's the song! The song was called Soll schon kommen die Geule, which means the redemption should come. The refrain goes, Soll schon kommen die Geule, 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 Mashiach kum schon bald, and then it repeats itself. So it's 3 times the redemption should come, Messiah is coming. Somebody later explained it to me that this was a song that was written after the Holocaust, in a period where obviously Jewish people on a whole were very demoralized, because especially if you were European Jew, there's no way you passed, from 39 to, there's no way you got through the Holocaust living life normally. And then all of a sudden, the war's over, and your whole family, you're one survivor out of a whole family of God knows as many. You lost parents, brothers, sisters, children. It was unheard of almost not to lose anyone. And of course, after a big calamity, the Messiah is going to come. And maybe I'm not the one who should be explaining this song, but that's, I think, no mention of the Holocaust, but just mention when things are bad. Soll schon kommen die Geule, let the redemption come. Messiah is going to be here soon. The reality is, the core group that got involved in this, Montreal had a Yiddish theater, which was initially set up to serve a Yiddish-speaking population that wanted Yiddish content. It's kind of shifted, and now we do Yiddish theater so that, for the sake of doing Yiddish theater and try and bring in people who introduce them to it. I was in the Yiddish theater from a very young age, and the core group from this group, we were Yiddish theater alumni in about the same age group, and yes, we're all very close. A lot of us have bought in and around here. Our kids go to the same daycares. We have each other, we go out together, not just when we're doing this. Came together for a mission, and the core group, I'd say the leadership, the people taking initiative and planning activities, are about 10-15 people. In terms of people who've attended our events, I mean, what's our event? Not every sing-song I do I consider one of our events, but we probably had a good 100 people overall, never at one time, but I think we've had up to 50-60 people at our events. And now we just got funding for the first time, and they're demanding, the condition to the funding. They want to know our itinerary for the year. So it's a good thing, because it's forcing us to structure a little more. And we've been branching out. I mean, it's hard to really separate us from the Yiddish theater, because we're all, again, people who are alumni of the Yiddish theater, and alumni, we're active, many of us, that can still act in the Yiddish theater. And so I guess in that regards, we wear many hats. And now I'm trying to plan, and I don't know which hat it is. Is it Yiddish theater? Is it urban shtetl? But get children's activities going, so that my children or that generation will be exposed to the music, and hopefully through being exposed to the music, because you can connect with music in a language you don't, songs in a language you don't understand. It'll be like their introduction, and hopefully it'll inspire them at some point in their life to want to learn more.
Soon the little one's gonna be the mom. Microphone on his shirt. And the mom is gonna be the baby, right? Rock me side to side. Is it a funny song? Is this a funny song? Hey, give me your cheek. Hey, give me.
Sag ich, Mama, es ist ein Schock, deine schönen Augen. Bin ich hier erfolgt, wenn die Mama jetzt sie kommt, sehr Gottes Willen, nimm sich mit, was soll ich tun, sich noch verkehrt.
He's a funny bird. Look at them, so now he's the movie. Daddy! Daddy! I'm gonna do it when we're finished. Now can we hear the Gangnam Style?
My ultimate goal is, and it sounds a little trite, is that in 50 years from now, there'll still be an urban shtetl, and it's not going to be, you know, those of us who are still alive and carrying canes, because that's what most Yiddish groups are today. It's just that same generation as they've aged. Sometimes it's my parents' generation, you know, people 60 and up. So I can have this group going of octogenarians, but what I'd really like to see is a new generation of young people who we've managed to instill enough of this in them that they want to keep it moving forward and continue preserving the language and well, through urban shtetl, the music, but the culture in general.
Mommy!
Bonne nuit.
Shabbos, 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 soll sein Iden Shabbos, Shabbos soll sein Shabbos, soll sein Shabbos,